What's up, guys? Welcome to Neek, which stands for Nerd/Geek. And if that relates to you, I would consider clicking that subscribe button. So, I know my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time, The Office was number 3, but just after rewatching it, thinking about it, this would be, I can say confidently that this is my favorite TV show of all time. So, I thought it would be fun to rank all 9 seasons of The Office from worst to best. Coming in at number 9 is season 8. So now I don't hate this season. Like, there are some people that kind of hate it. I still think it's a pretty good season. But I still do think it's the worst season out of The Office. And with some of the seasons above it, there's things I love and there's things I hate. But for this season, it's like not really a bunch of things I absolutely hate, but there's not a lot I absolutely love. Like, this is the one season where, like, if I were to say my favorite episodes, I would have it from, like, I don't know, top 20 episodes. I'd probably have one from at least every other season besides this season. So that's kind of where I think about it. But for things I like about this season, there's a lot of side characters that get a bunch more screen time, and I think that's really great to get to see more of them, especially Kevin, who gets a bunch of absolutely hilarious moments. It also builds on this Dwight and Jim relationship, and you see they don't actually hate each other. They're just very different people. And then Andy, with Andy being boss, I'm fine with it. I'm glad they didn't try to do someone like who's kind of like Michael Scott, because no one can out Michael Scott, so I'm glad they took a different approach with Andy. And I think it works well enough. But on the negative side, I did not like Robert California. He was just so everywhere. Like, I don't really know what they wanted to do with him, because sometimes he seemed extremely smart, sometimes he seemed like dumb, sometimes he seemed very calm but weird, and then sometimes he went full crazy and he like jumps into a pool naked. It's like he's just everywhere, and I really think they didn't know what to do with him. And then I thought it was pretty good until like the last couple episodes, and I'm talking about like after the Florida stuff. I just kind of stopped. That was just when it started getting pretty bad. So starting with like Get the Girl, all the way till the end. So they have Nellie, who's a character I didn't really like in the other episodes, but she shows up and she just becomes boss by just walking in and taking it, and somehow no one stops her, which is just very annoying and like doesn't really make any sense. And then Andy comes back and he's fired, and they try like doing this thing for him to get back into it, but it's basically a rehash of like the Michael Scott Paper Company arc with Broke, like as he steals their client, but then he talks to David Wallace, and it doesn't really seem like he mentioned that he stole their client as the reason that David Wallace brought it back. It seems like he just convinced him, so that was kind of pointless. And then it didn't really feel super satisfying at the end, because I feel like I've seen stuff like it before. But at least we did get rid of Gabe and Robert California. Coming in at number 8 is season 9. So, unlike season 8, I was pretty much like, I thought it was pretty good all the way through. This one's kind of frustrating, because there is lots of stuff that I absolutely love, and there's a lot that I hate that just, it's some of the worst stuff. And because at least season 8 didn't ruin stuff necessarily, this kind of ruins some stuff. So first thing off is, no one really talks about how Ryan and Kelly just left at the beginning of the season, and like right in the first episode, you don't really get much time to say goodbye to them. They're just gone, and they're replaced with P and Clark, who aren't terrible characters, but they're just not as interesting as Ryan and Kelly. And then the most frustrating thing about this season is Andy. So Andy has had a pretty big arc starting with season 3. He comes in and he was just supposed to be like the annoying guy at the Stanford branch, and he kind of fit that. But they wanted him to become a full character, and you need to kind of do something different with him. So they started to change him to be more likable and relatable, and you start to get to see more of him. So like, I feel like I guess season 4, I kind of like him, but really it starts with like season 5 all the way through season 8. I do really like him. And they kind of got rid of some of the anger problems from the 3rd season, because he like goes through anger management, so that's like lots of stuff. But in this season, they're like, oh, we're running out of things to do with him. Oh, remember at the beginning he had anger problems? Let's bring those back. Even though that's what people didn't like about Andy, we should bring that back. And he does this kind of crazy stuff, like he poops on David Wallace's car. Like, I don't know what they were doing here. And then also where he just leaves on a boat and he becomes extremely selfish. He like forgets about Aaron, and that's another frustrating thing, is because they've tried, Andy and Aaron have been doing this on and off again thing for starting in season 5, and you really feel like they're a good couple, but they just need to do stuff. And then season 8, you finally get to see them together, and you're like, yes. But then in this season, when they're finally together, Andy's being a jerk, and so you don't want Aaron to be with this version of Andy as a jerk, but you want her to be with Andy in general, which is just very frustrating. And as you throw in Pete, where she starts dating Pete, like, I'm like, I want her to date Pete because Andy's being a jerk, but I want her to date Andy, but just not this version of Andy, and that's just a very frustrating thing. And then also, of course, with this Jim and Pam thing, it's kind of weird. So, of course, they have, like, marriage problems, but originally they were actually going to split up and then come back together in the final episode, or the end. But then, and you see, that's kind of why they introduced, like, Brian, like, the Boomite guy, which is kind of a weird thing, but, how they, like, showed the guy from the documentary. But they were like, oh, we're going to introduce him, but then they're like, oh, we can't actually split up Jim and Pam, so let's just have them have some problems. But then Brian becomes useless in this because he's not really in it that much, and he doesn't really do much in it. And then even Jim and Pam, it's like they act like they've had a bunch of fights and their marriage is kind of struggling, but you don't actually really see them fight, because it's like they don't want to show them fighting, but they want it to have marital problems, but they don't want to fully go into it because, like, we can't ruin Jim and Pam. So it's just this kind of, like, in the middle weird thing, and I just don't really think it works. Now, I didn't want them to go all the way, and I don't want them to go all the way and have them split up and come back together. I wouldn't want that, but I think it makes it worse because it's just going in between marital problems and not having it. And yeah, and that's kind of been the core of this entire show, was this Jim and Pam relationship. So it's kind of weird to have them, like, not talking or, like, fighting and stuff. But then more on the good side, you have Creed. It's just full on Creed. He does so much hilarious stuff. Like, everything they write is just like some crazy thing. There's just some hilarious moments with him. And then you also have some more great Kevin moments. And then also, as I said in season 8, with the Jim and Dwight, like, friendship relationship is built on this. And I really like how it ends up with them in the last couple episodes. I really like where you end with them. And then also, there's one of the best pranks is in this season, Asian Jim. And then you have Pam and Dwight's relationship is also really good because you get to see how them kind of become friends and all this. And even at the end, Dwight calls her his best friend. And then the final 3 episodes I thought really turned the season around and were pretty great. Of course, you get Dwight finally becoming the manager, which is this very satisfying thing to see him working all these years and he finally gets to become it. And then you get to see him getting engaged to Angela and all that. And then in the final episode, you get to kind of see everyone a year later. And I think all the emotions are really well. You bring Michael Scott back in the perfect, they bring him in the perfect way. And he only has 2 lines, but they're great Michael Scott lines that kind of also show where he's at now. It felt like a satisfying finale, but the rest of the season wasn't necessarily my favorite. Coming in at number 7, we're going back to the beginning with season 1. Now, this kind of is like a pilot season, as it only is 6 episodes, which I'm kind of fine that different things that when shows do a pilot season, especially when it's a show like this, because sometimes one episode, sometimes studios and stuff won't want to give it a full season because they're not quite sure about it. But 6 episodes, so you get to fully see, you get to see how people react to it, and it's a lot less, and you kind of get to see what works, what doesn't. And this is kind of this season is kind of like an experimental season of what works and what doesn't, and then they kind of fix some stuff that didn't work. But lots of the stuff did work. Of course, this cast, you have these main 4 people who are all just great. They totally fit their roles and stuff. Some great performances by all of them, and great job by the casting director for finding these 4 people. And then you have some really great episodes like Diversity Day, and then basketball. Some really great stuff here. But then for stuff that didn't really work, you also kind of got that with Michael Scott's character in this. He's a little bit too harsh. He kind of doesn't have the kind of love that he kind of does. They introduce later, he has a love for his co-workers. He wants his family. Right here, he doesn't really have it, so he doesn't have any redeemable qualities, which I don't really think fully works well because he's the main character. And if you want it, it can work for a couple episodes here, but if you want to keep building him, you need to give him some other things. So that's the one thing that's probably my biggest negative here. But Steve Carell's still great as Michael Scott. And then the side characters just don't really do much in here. They weren't even series regulars yet. And they don't really have any of their personalities and stuff. And later, think of the show, I think of the giant ensemble of great actors playing great characters. And in this season, it's really just the 4 with kind of a little bit of Ryan. And then because it's only 6 episodes, for overall plot lines, there's not really any. Or stuff that they introduce isn't fully finished in here. Like they introduce downsizing as a thing that they might have to downsize, but you don't actually see that into season 2. And then you also start this Jim and Pam relationship, which I think is just what a great TV relationship. Probably my favorite of all time. And it starts here. You kind of have them flirting and stuff, and you think it's it, and it's like a surprise when you figure out Pam's engaged. And then to change stuff up at the end of the season, they kind of do it where Jim does start dating someone else. So I think that kind of works. And I really do like this season. I just can't put it above other seasons because out of the 6 episodes, I'm not really a big fan of the pilot or Hot Girl, so there's still 4 episodes I like, but all the seasons above it have way more than 4 episodes that I just absolutely love, and there's just so much more I love, and because of it's only 6 episodes, it doesn't have as many problems as the ones below it, the 2 below it, so that's why it's above, but it can't rise to above it because of it. Coming in at number 6 is season 6. These are into the seasons that I really like, and there's so much I absolutely love with this season. Of course, you have some iconic episodes like Niagara, which is one of my favorite episodes, and then The Delivery, and another one of my personal favorites, Murder, which I think might be one of the most underrated episodes of the show. You also have stuff with Andy. This is probably my favorite season of Andy. You kind of, and Erin was introduced at the end of season 5, but you get to see more of her, and I kind of like what they do with her. But then there's also some things I don't like. First off, it introduces Saber, which, like, I don't mind the idea of, like, there's a buyout and it's owned by a new company, but with Saber, it introduces some bad characters like Gabe and Joe. I didn't really know what they were doing with either. I didn't think either characters really worked. And then also, they did some with Michael. Was kind of, I didn't really like Michael all that much in the season. Of course, there's so many iconic Michael stuff, but I feel like they made things too uncomfortable and too far with him. Of course, you have Scott's Tots, which I think just took it too far and is starting to make Michael a little bit less likable. And then also with his relationships, he dates Pam's mom, which is just and then he breaks up with her on her birthday, and then his relationship with Donna is just there's still a lot I love here, but I also have quite a few problems. That's why it is down to number 6. Coming in at number 5 is season 7. Now we're getting into the seasons that I just really love. The season starts off strong with some episodes that I just really like, and it starts getting extremely good with Classy Christmas, as you get to see Michael and Holly finally start dating. You also get one of my favorite episodes, Threat Level Midnight, which is a great payoff from an episode of season 2, and also I think it's just great how they're able to make a movie that seems like it was edited 3 times, filmed over different times, written, rewritten, and all that, and made by someone, an amateur, who tried really hard, and I think they balanced that all really well to make it seem, you can tell it was made by that. And then you get into those final episodes with Michael, and I think 3 out of 4 of them are phenomenal. Training Day, not as much, but you have Garage Sale, where you have Michael finally propose to Holly, and you also got some other great things, like the Dwight and Jim things are pretty great there. And then Michael's Last Dundies, just bringing back another thing from season 2, and then you have the emotional song, the end song, which is very emotional, just kind of makes you want to cry. And then Goodbye Michael, which just hits all the right notes for Michael leaving, all these great moments, and it's just a proper send-off to Michael. Lots of people would say that should have been the season finale. I see that, and I kind of agree, but then I do out of the 3 remaining episodes, I do like the last 2. Dwight K. Schrute, Acting Manager, is a pretty good episode, along with Search Committee, which has a bunch of fun cameos and stuff. So I think those work well enough it works well enough as a season finale, but I totally see where lots of people are coming from. But the big negative here is D'Angelo Vicker. I love Will Ferrell, but I don't know what they were trying to do with this character. It did not work at all. All his jokes fell flat. His personality is all over the place. It just kind of ruined part of the show. And because he showed up in Michael's last episodes, he started kind of ruining parts of it. When they're in the song in Michael's Last Dundies, he starts singing along too. Stop, you just met him and you're just annoying it. You're just annoying and it makes it worse. But I still absolutely love this season. Coming in at number 4 is season 4. Now this is just another phenomenal season of The Office. It is kind of a weird season because the first 4, it's only 14 episodes, and the first 4 are the 40-minute long episodes. And then also there was a writer's strike, so then there was a long break from when the episodes were released. But what we get, it's just really good. Now, as I said, the first 4 episodes are 40 minutes, and I feel 2 of them kind of feel a little bit too long. I prefer when they're doing the 20-minute episodes for mostly, and then just do a couple 40 minutes when it seems necessary, Fun Run. I really like that, and it totally seemed necessary for the 40-minute runtime, and that's just a great kickoff to it. And then there's some other episodes that I love, like Money, just another great, you get to see Pam and Jim go to Dwight's Fruit Farm, stay at the bed and breakfast, which is just hilarious. You finally get to see Jim and Pam dating, which is just so fun to just see them together. And then you have, of course, one of the most iconic episodes with Dinner Party. And you see this Michael and Jan relationship throughout the season. Kind of starting back in season 3, and you're like, they do not work together. And it keeps building and building and building until you get to Dinner Party, which is just one of the just best. It's the one that's the best at doing like the awkward, cringe, uncomfortable feeling. This is, if you want an episode that's like that, this is the best at doing it. There's so many classic things in there. And then as you go through, there's just some other great episodes, and it ends off great with Goodbye Toby, which introduces Holly, and you get to see Toby leave, which of course Michael's very happy about, and just a lot of great stuff to end it on a high note. So yeah, another great season, even though there's a couple bit weird things with the first couple episodes being longer and this being a short season. Coming in at number 3 is season 5, another season I just love. I think the season is the best, like, character-wise. Like, you have the strongest cast and characters here because you have Holly and Aaron are introduced, but it's before you have, like, the savior people like Gabe and all the people who come later. So I think this is the strongest character-wise. And the season has this Michael Scott company paper arc, which I really like, and you get to see how Pam has grown as a character, because, you know, Pam in the early seasons would have not joined this, and you get to see kind of how she's grown and got more comfortable and more speaks her mind more. And then also ends with the great episode Broke, which is a very smart way to end everything. And their season has so many just more episodes that I just love, like Weight Loss, The Surplus, Golden Ticket, and Stress Relief, which is one of my favorite episodes of all time. This is hilarious episode. The season also ends with Company Picnic, which is a great episode, and then also comes with a great ending where you figure out Pam is pregnant. Coming in at number 2 is season 2. This is just, you're getting to this, I absolutely love this season. This is The Office at full force with great episode after great episode after great episode. So many just classic episodes, like you got Email Surveillance, Office Olympics, you have The Fire, all these iconic things that come here, The Dundies, all these iconic episodes, and my favorite episode of all time, The Injury. And also they're able to fix Michael's character in this season to make him one of my favorite TV show characters of all time. And you end it with Casino Night, which is just a great way to end everything. It does some great stuff for the Jim and Pam stuff, some pretty big things what a season finale should do, change up everything. So just an amazing season of TV. So season 3 is my favorite season, and I think the main reason is because of this correlation between Jim and Pam, which kind of took different paths after season 2 Casino Night, and they finally get to start dating at the end of the season, which I think is the perfect amount of time for them to actually start dating and stuff, where it doesn't feel too dragged out, but not like too soon. And there's some really interesting stuff here, like where Jim's starting to date Karen. Then there's like Roy figures out he attacks Jim, which makes us like Dwight a lot more, because that was just a great moment there. And then it also introduces Andy, who I don't love here, but I will come to love later. And then Michael Scott is just full Michael Scott. You got some great Michael Scott stuff, like in The Convict with Prison Mike. And you got that very awkward kiss with Oscar, and it still blows my mind that was improv, and they did that on the spot. And then there's a bunch of other episodes I love, like Business School I think is a really great episode. And then the final 2 episodes I think close off stuff really nicely. They're very much hilarious, but also finishing off the Jim and Pam stuff, and also some stuff with Michael and Jan. And I think overall, this is just my favorite season of The Office. So that is my ranking of all 9 seasons of The Office. Comment down below your ranking of The Office. And if you want more content like this, you can check out a playlist which has all my Office and Parks and Rec videos. So far it's just 2 videos in there, this one and the Parks and Rec's special review. But I'm going to try to make a video for either one of those shows every month. Next month, I think I'm just going to do another Office video because I just rewatched it. So it's on my mind. I think it'll probably be my top 10 favorite episodes, but if you have any other ideas, comment down below which one you'd want to see. And you can also check out my review for Space Force, which was also created by Greg Daniels and Steve Carell. So I'm pretty sure if you like this video, there's probably something up there for you. And keep watching Neek.